Sam, hey, Leafs Talk Live. Leafs get handed one from the Boston Bruins. It looked okay in the first period. Looked like just two teams that were going to fly around a little bit tonight. Leafs had some moments, but yeah. Let's start with this. Are you taking anything away from this game? Because I think I only have the one thing, and it kind of got hammered by the broadcast, but it was something that you and I had been kind of talking about quite a bit throughout the evening.
Boy, Simmer was describing those guys. So sorry, Craig Simpson was really talking about Liljegren and Sandin. Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, man. I asked Sis to, we can roll this right away, Dave. The lasting takeaway from this game, the only thing that really meant something to me, well, there's two things. It's just the depth of this team versus Boston, where there's the second goal against. It's the fourth line, and it's Liljegren and Sandin that are out on the ice for over 2 minutes, and the fourth line just looking completely helpless against Boston. And they just didn't have the depth players, I thought, anyways, real moments in this game. Nobody stood out to me. Maybe you could make a little bit of a case for Engvall in the first period, and then at the very end of the game, he was really flying around for a cookie at the end of the third when the game was out of hand. But outside of that, nobody in the bottom six really did anything for me. But then, yeah, Sandin and Liljegren, Craig Simpson brought it up, but this shift actually was the first real, oh my God, what the hell with these guys? They couldn't do anything. Sandin, to me, just looked like a guy tonight where it felt like he had no time and no space the entire evening.
So when they're showing on the broadcast your general manager writing things down as they're talking about your play on the ice, it's probably not a great sign for your game, I would imagine. No. And they just go to the Dubas, who's stewing up there, just writing things in his little notebook. He's like, yeah, 38-37, no good tonight, underline. What was he writing down? He just would. I don't know. I think it's a hard one to really have a ton of takeaways from, in terms of, I think a lot of these guys probably had one foot on the plane to Cabo. They're thinking about what's happening here. They're about to have a long break. You got the Christmas break coming up. Maybe give a little less effort on the last show before you head out. That's
what I'm asking you, though, buddy. That's nature. Why I started it.
But listen, I don't think you can watch this game tonight and not feel some kind of way about Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren playing against a team that you could potentially feel in the playoffs. It would just be malpractice for Dubas to be like, yeah, it's a game before a break. That's why they got caved in for 60 minutes. That's the reason.
William Nylander being -4 tonight, you throw that in the trash.
Yeah.
Who cares? William Nylander's been one of your best guys all season long. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Ilya Samsonov letting in, I would say, a bad one, the fourth one, where he shows too much net. It's a beautiful shot, but it's not a great goal. The third and fourth ones of the game, I thought, he probably wants one of those two back. You could see in his body language. Guess what? Pretty much throwing it out. I'm not putting Samsonov on that Bruins team as, oh no, means he can't play in a big game against a big team with pressure. No, throw it out. That's trash. The Leafs losing this game. I don't really think you're right. A lot of information gleaned from it. But to me, it was just pretty plain and simple is Boston has guys in their bottom six that just have what we've talked about throughout the season, just discernible skills. Guys who look like they're kind of in the fight and they're just contributing all game long and stacked up really well against the Leafs bottom six seem to have more of an impact. This wasn't a night where Bergeron and Pasternak and Marchand took over, right?
None of them scored.
They had some moments, but they didn't do anything points-wise. Mm-hmm. And then Liljegren and Sandin, like I said, they look like they were constantly operating where there was a body on them all night, and they seemed a little flustered by it. I will say, I'm not trying to be I think Liljegren owed some of the criticism, but Sandin to me was especially bad. He looked like he was panicking almost every time he had the puck.
And I think we've kind of seen this in games where they've played against top tier talent. I think you think back to some of those games against Tampa that they've played where it hasn't been pretty for him. And this is where you go to the conversation that we have on all of our shows, what feels like every day, about what you're going to address at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. And I think the Leafs are obviously a great team, and I think they're a top whatever 5 team. I think they deserve to be there with the season they're having. But to me, there's pretty clear needs in terms of defense. Like you think that they're a deep core and you think that they have guys that can contribute, but when you see them go up against teams like the Boston Bruins, which if you happen to get by the Tampa Bay Lightning somehow, you're going to be playing in the second round of the playoffs. It's a pretty clear, eye-opening sort of spectacle to me that you should be looking to maybe not replace Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren, but at least have a guy that's an option with those 2 guys, or at least have a guy that's going to push those 2 guys. It just seems that like that can't be your opening night roster going into a series against Tampa or Boston. It just really feels like it's not the right recipe to me.
I'm pretty unmoved about my feelings about Liljegren lately, which is that he's been awesome. And even tonight, like I thought his mistakes, and again, this is me watching it live and taking notes and then seeing some of the clips that we're doing here. I actually thought some of his mistakes were more, hey, my partner is really fighting it. I can't put him in tough positions. And I felt like some of the passes that he made to him, like back in the zone, were basically like, hey, you deal with this. And Sandin wasn't equipped to do it tonight. I still felt like from a physical standpoint, he wasn't just completely like getting barbecued the way that Sandin was, where it was just, man, Sandin looked like he looked like Nick Patan out there tonight. It just was like, you couldn't tell me that he's 5'10" or whatever. He looked 5'4". He looked 5'5". He was Mark Savard's joke, Leaf for a day.
Contest winner.
I think that where I'm at right now anyways is that Liljegren is like a completely unmovable guy, and that he's very, very likely on your playoff roster in a way that
Absolutely.
I think he might actually be like a bona fide stud. But to me, it's just more, you can't have him with that partner in a meaningful game and against a big, nasty forecheck full of guys who care and can get nasty with you. And it sort of brings me to something like, I know this is analysis of the game. We'll get to a couple other things from the actual contest, but to me, the actual perfect formula is some people don't like Jake McCabe. His name keeps coming up to the point where I feel like there's a lot of smoke there. But the Gavrikov, McCabe type of guy that can play beside Liljegren, that really balances out their lineup. The question is, do you have to use Sandin in a trade? And I kind of feel like if you don't want to give up Nyes and you don't have anything else in the cupboard and you got a late first-round pick, his name might come up in some of these negotiations. He might be a chip that you got to use, and I don't think that that's a backbreaker for the Leafs.
I don't really pretend to know a whole lot about Gavrikov or Jake McCabe. Like, I know both of their names, and I know that they're both NHL sort of gritty defenseman guys. But like, if you're trading Rasmus Sandin, who has been as Dubas's baby really in terms of drafting and from the development, and like he's really come a long way with this guy. He's had a lot of patience with him. To me, it would be a pretty shocking move to see him trade him in one of those trades. Like, I would
Jake
agree.
McCabe plays top minutes for a team that has been getting caved in all year, and he doesn't get caved in. And Gavrikov is a guy who like literally shut the Leafs down in a playoff series a couple of years ago. So I don't think that guys.
I think those guys are
not
fine.
Ilya Lyubushkin here, buddy. Like, this isn't one of those trades. Like, this isn't Roman Polak that you're talking about. You're talking about guys who can play like heavy minutes and a heavy style. And the price of acquisition, especially if you're getting an extra year of term on a McCabe, maybe it's not that high, but if you're getting them to eat money, I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're talking about trade pieces, to me, Sandin is as high as I think the Leafs would be going. And if we're talking about like just expendable pieces, tonight it kind of felt like he was one of those guys where you just went, okay, well, I don't really see how you fit in a series against a Boston or a Tampa if this is the current group. And so, this probably seems reactionary. This is a reactionary show. It's a reaction show. I'm not going to apologize for this. I just thought Sandin, that's the real biggest lesson from tonight was, hey, he can't be in a series like this. Not with that partner, not with these stakes.
Yeah, and listen, I had this very conversation with Borny today about the potential of trading Sandin, so I'm not against it, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it would probably come down to the question, who would you rather trade in one of those trades? Is it Nyes or is it Rasmus Sandin, which to me is a fascinating question in itself.
Sandin, no brainer, and I've barely seen Nyes.
Yeah. Like I would tend to agree. But at least Rasmus Sandin has contributed somewhat at the NHL level, and you know that the potential is there for a guy to be sort of middle of your lineup defenseman, as opposed to a guy who's just, smoke and mirrors, lighting it up with two of the best guys on the, you don't know what he is in the NHL. Absolutely.
You kind of hate Matthew Knies. It comes out just a little bit where you're like, you don't hate Matthew Knies, the player or the guy. You hate the hype, which I totally get because I think
it's insane.
Yeah, I know. I get it, man. The older we get, I know. The older we get, the more
he's playing with two of the best guys in college hockey. The two kids that dominated on the World Junior team, they're playing on a line together. They're lighting everybody up. It's like, oh my God, coming in and playing against Charlie Coyle and Taylor Hall, it's a different kettle of fish, man.
100%. I think if the question is who helps you more this year, it's no brainer that it's Sandin. Yes. If it's who's going to help you more over the next 3 seasons, I think that it better be Matthew Knies. He better be more of a contributor than what Sandin is. Anyway, I just thought that was a really tough night for them. I hated their play basically all night. I thought Sandin's was much worse than Liljegren's, and it was one of those things where, both guys deserve criticism, but to me, one guy just looked like the moment, the pressure, the size was just an issue that I'm not going to ignore it.
He was fighting it the whole night.
Yeah, he really was. What do you want to do next? I kind of want to talk about Bunting.
Okay, what? I was going to say, speaking of fighting it, can we just quickly talk about, do we have that, the fight? Well, it's not a very long clip, but oh my God.
Kudos. A little bit of kudos to Greer, though, because he scores a goal, and he's like, I'm going to get the Gordie Howe hat trick right away.
Why did he take that fight? It was weird of him to take the fight.
Okay,
That's a great goal.
This is my ignorance. Like, obviously, we watch every single Leaf game, so I try to catch a lot of Bruins. I watched the Bruins Lightning game tonight. This was my first reaction as these guys are starting to score off. I go,
oh my,
Greer's really tough. And he's obviously out on his feet essentially from the first shot. Like he gets lit up, and Simmonds then just goes to like the jackhammer, like pulling back huge right hooks or left hooks and just crushing him. I don't know how Greer got off the ice without help. Like he's out of it. And then, obviously he went to the tunnel because like how bad would you have to be of a concussion spotter or whatever to like say,
I think it's time for you to come here, bud. Hey, Ted and White, time to come over here for a quick chat.
We're gonna put a flashlight in your eye. We're gonna take a look.
I love that the toughest guy on the ice played for the Leafs in that game. Like I know Simmonds didn't have a very good night, and the first hem in of Liljegren and Sandin, where they gave up that 2-1 goal, was because he didn't get off the ice. And Craig Simpson pointed it out that Sheldon was yelling for him to come off the ice. So I rewound and went back and listened, and it was a great call by Simmer. You could hear him yell for Wayne to come off the ice. He's like, Simmer, like yelled it, and he goes into the zone. They ended up getting burned, and it goes in. But listen, I love having the toughest guy on the ice. Don't care how much hockey, whatever happens in hockey, however much it changes, it still matters. And the Leafs got to bounce off that. They played their best, of the last 15 minutes of that game or however long, their best 3 or 4 shifts came right after that scrap. They get it within one, and then it goes down and goes bar down on the other end. But I thought they did respond to that happening. It still mattered. So I love that from Simmonds.
Buddy, I completely agree. And it's something that I was actually thinking about throughout the game, because Simmonds, like you mentioned, he's on the ice for that 1 goal. It's a really bad moment for him. Mm-hmm. He has a couple of spots in the game where he just looked like he was fighting it a little bit, but he actually also had some other moments where I thought that his line had a little bit of push, even in the offensive zone. And all I could think to myself was, okay, I get why he doesn't play every night, clearly, and why they take looks at other guys because they know what they have in them. Yeah. But as much as we do the whole, like, I'm sorry, hey, this nice Bobby McMahon, he gets them all. It's like Wayne Simmonds is more useful today than Bobby. Yeah, and so it was like, if they don't really address this bottom 6, it did sort of get me thinking, like, and I do think they are going to. I think that they're going to add a forward or two, and maybe Knies does get in the mix. I still feel like if they got into a series with Tampa or they get into a series with Boston, like, Simmonds might get some games.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. If we're sitting here and he's playing a lot of games against Tampa, maybe not a lot, but even anything over 2 to me is a detriment to what they've done at the deadline. Like I love Wayne Simmonds. Wayne Simmonds is one of my favorite players ever. Played known sound, like massive fan of Wayne Simmonds. Me and Feuda always raving about Wayne Simmonds, Owen Sound legend. But like, he is what he is at this point. And
but I just like that he fits in this game, though. Like he fits in this game.
And it's nice, like I said, it's nice to have the toughest guy on the ice. And if you're going into a series against Tampa and you have Wayne Simmonds in the series, he is the toughest guy on the ice. There's no one on Tampa that's tougher than Simmonds. It matters. I like that fact. But there's a lot of shifts where he can't keep up. Like,
I'd watch a Maroon Simmonds tilt and be very interested in how
Maroon probably run from that one, but he doesn't really. I don't think he really goes the heavies. No, he kind of goes the middleweights because he likes to look tough. But anyways, that's a different story for a different day.
It was like last Leafs talk against the Bruins when all the Bruins fans got in my mentions bitching about you saying Marchand never fought.
Oh, he doesn't. Hey, the last fight was like 2020, so it's all good.
Hey, by the way, so this is a way to pivot to Bunting. So this is like, again, little notes of guys who care, guys who stepped up. I was looking for a couple of things tonight after the Marchand comments. I was like, I wonder how Marner's going to play tonight, given everything that's gone on. And I will say this. I'm forgiving of the Leafs loss. I'm not going to read into it as much as some other people might. Maybe people wanted more of like a hot takey reaction. Like I said, I thought that it's pretty hot takey saying that, Sandin isn't ready for a playoff series like this when it's off of one game. But overall, I'm saying like, we're joking during the game saying the boys are ready for Cabo. The Cabo boys are ready. There's a lot of stretches. They didn't have that bite. I kind of wanted them to have it,
guys had
though.
their flowery shirts on under their jerseys tonight.
Yeah.
Like Willie just took off his shoulders and he had like the shirt that was down open.
Yeah. I was going to say some guys didn't even shower. They were just like, see ya. We're out of here. I kind of, maybe it's me. Maybe it's a little old school. Maybe it's, having Ray Bork on the pod today, kind of grousing a little about guys that don't care enough anymore. I kind of wanted the Leafs to care a bit more. I thought Marner actually had like some really nice moments in the game. His goal was nice. He had another play where he was just kind of around it. But Bunting to me stuck out tonight in a way where it hit, like he had a bad moment. That ref hit the little bit of a hook and pull by Marchand where it's like, I don't know. Some people thought that was a horrific miscall. I thought, Marchand, maybe a little bit of a penalty, nothing too egregious. The way he was kind of showing up the ref was a bit much. But getting the cross-check to the face, just giving it to the official, losing his mind, going to the bench, being covered in blood, breaking his stick, waving at the ref. Like, Marner tells him basically calm down, Marner's sitting beside him. If that clip runs longer, Marner's going, hey, calm down. Because when he breaks his stick, he almost hits the official with it.
Yeah.
Like he almost hits the official with the stick and maybe it's suspension. Marner's trying to chill him out. But Bunting just cares, man. And he's got that fire and he's got that energy.
Can't teach caring like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like the Leafs have so many guys where we have to be like, they're stoic and they don't show their emotion. And it's like
stoic. If I hear stoic one more time.
Yeah. And I like having the guy that cares. And Bunting being in a scrum tonight, being covered in blood. I actually think that now last year he got way too many penalties. It was a joke because he was diving, like straight up. He was diving. And it became a big point of conversation amongst the officials during the offseason. We heard it from everybody. Yeah. Hey, the officials looked at like Bunting tape all the way across and they're not happy. This one's bad. But I actually think it's now at the point where the refs just hate his guts and they refuse to give him a call unless it's like the most blatant thing on earth.
Well, they're human beings. Like you can only take so much. Like it's like you ever watch whenever I watch a Raptors game, I have to turn it off because Nick Nurse is just berating the officials for the whole game. And who
was the guy in the finals that gave it to him? Who gave it to Nick Nurse?
I don't know, but somebody did. Like I really don't love the official abuse. Like I hate when guys are like all over the refs and any level of any sports. It really kind of drives me crazy. And he is all over the refs and it's only human nature. All these guys are boys. All these guys talk. They ref all these games. They're traveling all over the place. It's human nature. They obviously hate him. He gets less calls because they hate him, because he yells at them. He's diving all around, his head snapping back every play. Like it is what it is. It's just like people are going to be upset about that. And they'll be like, oh, you got to call it to the letter of the game. They're not, I almost swore, they're not robots, man. Like you have to deal with some of this. If that's the way you play the game, you're going to have to deal with the consequences. That's life.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like
I think they got to get the cross check to the face in front of the net is kind of a can't misser.
But if you're watching it, he immediately, like, massive head snap back, looks like a classic Bunting dive. He sees the head snap back. He thinks he maybe embellished it like he has a tendency to do. It's a wrong call. It's a missed call. He's obviously cut. He's obviously leaking, but like, I get it from the ref's perspective. Like, I would probably I'd be pretty hesitant too. Like, I'm sorry.
No, I get it. I'm just saying that the refs have now officially zagged too far. And now
it's a zag and a half.
Yeah, they zagged too far. And now I actually think it's a thing where the Leafs are going to be able to send tape into the office and go, look at all the calls you guys are now missing on Bunting. This is becoming a bit of a farce. This guy's going to get killed out here because he takes a beating. And again,
I love going back to the front of the net, which I really respect. Takes a beating every single night and goes right to the same spot every single night.
Exactly. And like I said, takes a beating, goes to the hard areas, takes shots. Marchand didn't give him credit before the game. They asked him about Bunting and he went, I don't really get into it with Bunting. And I think Bunting went super rat mode tonight and wanted it because you know why? He cares. And that means something to me about Michael Bunting. And, you know, I've had mixed emotions about the guy for a while in terms of, hey, he's been given such a golden opportunity. I don't know how much you pay him. You know, he can't drive his own line. I shouldn't say a bit of a diver. He's like one of the biggest divers in the NHL, maybe
100%.
The king of the divers. So like, yeah, that bothers me at times as well. But tonight was just one of those games where I went, in a 7-game series, you got to have Buntings on your team.
Absolutely.
You got to have them in this. And he mattered a lot tonight. So kudos to Bunting because I actually feel like there's been a little bit more ownership and swagger to him over the last couple of weeks, maybe a month, where I think he knows now, okay, I'm getting a bag no matter what. And these guys want to keep me around. I want to be here. I love his care level. I love his compete, even though the diving is, oftentimes you just have to do that one. Like cover your, just do that move and pretend like I haven't spent my whole life hammering soccer players for diving. And then I watch Bunting. You know what? That Marchand call quickly, that was just actually one of those scenarios where it's like it was a hold and a dive. Like you call both of them, it's 4-on-4.
How pissed is Bunting though? About to go on a 10-day break, guarantee got plans, go somewhere nice, and you just showing up with a big old cut right across the bridge of your nose. I guess it probably plays. Like, what happened? Oh, it happened in the NHL. I'm sure that probably plays at the resort that he's going to, but
I think it's fine. Do you remember in that 24? There was a Paul Maurice quote that I love so much where he has the scar and they ask him about his scar and he goes, I love it. I was a hockey player. I went, what?
The only guy who didn't love his scar was Guy Boucher.
Yeah. But I have a hockey. I was a hockey player and I went, that's awesome. I think that's the same thing with Bunting. Like you wear your war wound and you're proud of it and you're that kind of guy.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. What else from this game? The Yarncroc goal was all right. I did like, again, that Bunting got into it. The Samsonov stuff we already went over. Leafs bottom 6 we went over. I thought, Morgan Rielly gets cooked by Pasternak early. Hey, who among us or who among the NHL hasn't been cooked by Pasternak?
Well, play the body. Like you got your eyes down, looking straight down, like trying to poke at it with a stick. Just get the hip in there, Morgan. Anyways.
Yeah, but the bigger one to me was actually the shorthanded goal where he's just kind of like, hey,
Willie.
Well, here's the thing about Morgan Rielly is if the case is like, you got to have a defenseman out there because they're going to be defensively responsible. Like, I know it's walk the line as well for the power play and he has a sense of that, no question. But if the case is going to be, well, you can't get burned for shorties, then Morgan Rielly has to do a little bit more than what he did on that goal to justify. Okay.
Very fair. Yeah. And listen, that was once again, both of those guys dreaming about their first margarita, both of them like looking towards the sky. They had no idea what they were doing.
They had the yacht rock playing in their heads all night tonight. They had the yacht rock playlist kicking.
Absolutely. So listen, I know this isn't a hot take and I sent out a tweet talking about, about the Bruins. I said, I have some breaking news that the Bruins are quite good. And, I had a lot of Leaf fans getting him mentions being like, and so are the Leafs. And so are the Leafs. It's like, listen, guys, I know. But, listen. I don't know if the Leafs can beat that team in a 7-game series. Okay. Like, I'm just saying that right now. I'm watching them play them 3 times this year. The second game they played was an excellent close game where they lost. First game was a tight game at home where they won. They just got smoked pretty bad in the Cabo game tonight. I don't believe that they could beat the Bruins in a playoff series. And I'm sorry to say that, but
Austin
we're being
Matthews
friends
in this game, though, too.
I know.
That kind of needs to be mentioned. That's part of the reason why it's hard to judge it.
I know. I completely agree with that, and I understand that. But it's just, I don't believe deep down. I don't believe. And they have to prove to me, I guess, but I just don't believe. Sorry.
You know what I think is big that we probably haven't discussed enough with Boston is like their blue line, the way they jumped up in the play tonight, and just how they kind of feel threatening a lot of the game, but also Allmark does not appear to be some kind of like creation of a good Boston team. He is really good. He made a couple of
clean stops tonight.
Yeah, he made a couple of just beautiful saves, calmed the game down, slowed it down for Boston. Like you mentioned, that little hot run that Toronto had after the fight.
Yeah.
Allmark was solid, and he just made saves. And, yeah, I think that you could probably say, hey, Bunk, like he's never done that in a playoff series yet, so let's see that. Maybe he's like a Bobrovsky kind of guy that has a really good season, gets in the playoffs and proves to be a bit of a choker, whatever, right? Until you do it in the postseason, it doesn't matter as much. But he does feel like a guy who, like, it would be scary to be against in a playoff series as well.
Absolutely. Like they just are so good. And it's not even a detriment of the Leafs. The Leafs are so good too. They're a good team. They're a top 5 team, but just the way that Gary's laid it out, they're going to have to beat
the
2
Leafs
of these
are so
teams.
good. I know this is Leafs talk, but yeah,
I think the Leafs are so good. If
I think the Leafs are good.
If any other division, it's a different story. Like they're going to be, if you're playing against Carolina in a playoff series, if you're playing who are really good, I understand that, but like they play a different style of game than these 2 teams they have to play. If you're playing the Rangers, you're playing the Caps, you're playing the Penguins.
Yeah, but those teams are all just good. Like, yeah, the Leafs are better. I don't like, yeah, whatever. I'm parsing here. I just don't think there are a lot of really good teams right now. I feel like the league is flat and Boston might be the only ones. And then Tampa, they get the credit because they're Tampa. But yeah, I think that Toronto's just good, but I don't feel like, I'm watching a special hockey team.
I think that's fair at this point. Well, you think it's mostly the bottom 6. It's mostly the bottom 6 stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I see really special talent up top,
Joes,
but
that just get
no, but also like
through.
yeah, there's a little bit of I still listen. I don't want to do the debate here, but yeah, I still feel like there's like a missing element sometimes. The Leaf stars that is there. And so, yeah, I don't feel as though it's like this special nasty thing. Like you and I have talked about it, and it's something I feel a lot, which is when they're not ripping it up and scoring a lot of goals, the games feel really meh. And it's because there's no other pieces of the game. Anyway, whatever. That's maybe just modern NHL. Maybe I'm just getting used to that. I'll be talking about that actually tomorrow with James Myrtle on my podcast. Nice. And then I'm going to do Best Trash Talkers with Matthew Barnaby. I thought, hey, this is a good time to get him on, talk about Marchand. What makes like somebody creative? What makes somebody good? Because I actually thought the interesting thing from Marchand in the pregame tonight was when he said guys are afraid of getting picked up on the mic. I went, yeah, that is hard on a lot of guys because forever just chirps are swearing and saying bad words. Yeah. And now you got to be like creative and kind of funny,
For sure.
Like you got to be Sean Thornton, which is like not a lot of Sean Thorntons out there.
And Marner, what Marchand was saying about Marner in the media this morning was the best chirp. He was like, I tell him all the time, he's my favorite player. I love watching him play. You're my favorite player.
I know.
And all the Leaf fans are like, see, he praised him. It's like, oh my God, like, could you be like, oh my God, he's my favorite player.
Yeah, no, Marchand was on a tear today. Our poor boy Dangle took it right between the eyes from him. Like that's about as big a Twitter murder as I've ever seen. Like that. Oh. Wow. Like that's like people do 10-8 and that was 10-0. That was 10-0. You just have to put the app away for the day if Marchand gets you on that one. Anyway,
he rode into town on his steed and took out his sword and was chopping off heads.
Yeah, he just went after everybody. Top Leaf fan, Marner, Bunting, Leafs, all the guys that took money. He came in here.
Hot.
He came in hot. All right. That was Leafs Talk. Again, subscribe to the podcast, leave 5 stars on Spotify and Instagram, and on Apple. You can do the same for Real Kipper and Born, which Sam is on every day, 3 to 5, or for me on the JD Bunkis podcast, which will be up again starting tomorrow morning at 9. And then, if you want to do a nice thing when the content comes out, if you like it, hit the old thumbs up. We always appreciate that. Drop a comment if you'd like. Again, post All-Star break, we're going to start taking some comments from people. Sis will jump on, and we'll try to be a little bit more interactive with the fans, with the loyal people that are in the chat, or even just the haters who just disagree with a lot of stuff that we say. And then share it. We always say, please share it. If you see it, hit that retweet, do whatever, helps us out as well. Break. We get a full weekend.
Yeah, you're gone for like 6 years. You're gone. Yeah. You're not even doing the 2 games out of the break, so you're gone forever.
I did it smart though. But that's the last. Those are like the last 2 games I'm off. I'm off one more because of a friend in town, and then that's it.
You
were never gonna get me on a Friday and Saturday against Columbus. Like that was like, I'm way too much of a vet to I'll never get caught slipping like that.
Well, it's so funny. We talk about this big test game, and then they come out of the break. It's like finally they're out of their break, and then they play the Columbus Blue Jackets twice, the Habs, Blackhawks, Habs, Blackhawks,
twice.
Blackhawks. Yeah, great. We'll learn tons of lessons from those electrifying games, and you'll hear about them all on Leafs Talk.
Hey, those will be those that they get ready with your comments, people. All right, that's your time to shine.
Comment time.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Enjoy the break.